The word only works if you do it. Now I want you to ask your neighbor this question. It's a good one, but I want you to ask him. Ask your neighbor this question. Are you fighting battles that are not your fight? Are you fighting battles that are not your fight? David. So many lessons in the life of David. We can look at him and look at a person that had so many human characteristics, messed up and failed God on several different occasions, but yet recovered. And God received him and restored him, and he continued to operate in the assignment that God gave him. David. The one thing about David, his life was one that was continually tested. Somebody said, Pastor, why you say that? It starts out even from the time that Samuel goes to the house of who? Jesse. And he gets there and he's going to select a king. And so when it comes time for Jesse to bring all his sons in, David is left out in the field, and everybody's looked at but him, until finally Jesse says, you don't have no more sons because none of these are God's choice. So the first thing David had to live with, he had to survive the test of being overlooked. I share this with you today because these same tests are tests that we have to live through ourselves. You got to survive the test of being in the midst of people and people overlooking you. You got to survive it. You can't turn around and get mad and be mad with everybody and everything because you were overlooked. It just wasn't your time. But there is a timing that will come when you won't be overlooked. But you got to survive the test and not get crazy while you're overlooked. Ultimately, the oil flash flows when David comes into the place of Samuel. Ready for this? We also remember once David was chosen and he was moved into the palace, the king, Saul, had a problem with him. There were several times that Saul tried to kill him as the king, because a spirit was upon Saul, an evil spirit came upon him, and he would go into fits. And David used to come and sing to him to calm that spirit. But even while he was singing to him, he also had to look out for spears. So he had to learn how to serve God. He had to learn how to serve the king and duck at the same time. I hope some of y'all are listening. Because in church work, you got to learn how to serve and duck. At the same time. Because there's some people that just don't like you. But it should not stop you from serving. Oh, so many biblical lessons. I mean, Saul, they would be singing, and the spirit would tell him, he'd lean forward, a spear go right over his head. He kept on singing until that spirit left. So you got to understand that regardless of what comes against you, you just got to keep on serving God and just know that there are times when you're going to have to duck because you got some people that want to take you out. No, I hope I'm getting somewhere. I'm going somewhere with this. He also had to deal with this question. What do you care about the most? Is it being seen or connected? Let me talk to some of y'all because some of us won't do nothing unless we can be seen. We want visibility. We want people to know what we do. And you know, there's a scripture that really compliments people that work for the Lord that don't like to be visible. It specifically says what you do in secret, God will reward you openly. But there are some people, well, what do you want me to do? I want you to go work in the background. No, there's more to me than that. I'm not a background person. I got to be out front. I got to be visible. I want everybody to see my gifts and see my abilities and see my talents so that they'll see how great God is in me. But unfortunately, when we see you, all we see is you. So you got to learn the reality. Your intentions have to be right. I'm not doing what I do for visibility. I'm doing it because it needs to be done, because this is kingdom work. And somebody said, Pastor, what do you mean by that? You ready for this? One of the reasons why we have such a rough time getting people just to sit and watch the bathrooms. Let me say, it's difficult to get people in ministry to sit and watch the bathrooms because they don't have an audience. They said, well, my ministry's not in the bathroom. Your ministry is wherever it's effective. When we put you up to speak, it's ineffective because you don't study. Oh, my. Y'all done danced already, so I'm good. I'm in the right place. I can really talk to you because the reality is I've learned, and this is what I learned. I try to be to the best of my ability as invisible as possible. And somebody said, Pastor, what do you mean by that? The less visibility you have, the less attacks. The more visible you are to people, the more people have a tendency to come at you. But if they can't find you, then they got to attack each other. That's why I'm not at everything and every place. It's pastor. No, pastor don't come to that stuff. Your pastor, no, my pastor doesn't come to that stuff. Because if I came, I'd be under the microscope from the time I walked through the door till the time I left. So I make sure I keep it separate because I don't want the visibility. I just want to do what I do and keep it moving. So you got to realize that, and somebody said, but Pastor, you got to be seen. I'm seen when I need to be, but you ain't got to worry about me leading the crop. People that want that have to live their lives under a microscope. And if you're not ready to be viewed like that, see, let me share this. I like being by myself. I I get along with me quite well. When I'm by myself, there's no arguments. There's no fights. There's no criticizing. I don't look in the mirror and criticize myself. I thank God for what he did. When I'm by myself, I can eat what I want to eat. I'm just being honest. When I'm by myself, I can watch what I want to watch on TV. I don't care if I want to watch Westerns all day. If I want to watch somebody get shot off the horse all day, that's what I want to watch. Somebody said, you sound like the Lone Ranger. Good Western. I grew up on Gunsmoke. I still watch Gunsmoke. My father and I used to sit, and I knew when we were sitting watching Westerns to keep my mouth shut. Because he wasn't saying nothing and I wasn't saying nothing until the movie was over. So people that can't be by themselves are dangerous. Because they're waiting for some level of feedback, and some of that feedback is not always positive. That's why the scripture tells us to study to be what? Scripture tells us to study, and you ready for this? Study to be quiet means that you got to work to be quiet. Did I say that? You got to work to be quiet. You got to put effort in to be quiet. So you're not dragged into every and any old kind of conversation. People sitting there, why you so quiet? Because I ain't got nothing to say. You sitting over here getting all the information. I didn't ask y'all to come over here and start talking about nobody. I was sitting here quiet. What'd you come over here for anyway? I didn't invite you. Scripture says to study anytime. Didn't Paul tell Timothy to study to show thyself approved? So that means he had to spend time alone, working, getting it together. When the scripture tells you study to be quiet, he knew that some of us don't know how to shut up. All people got to do is drag you into a conversation and you'll go everywhere with them. Talking about stuff you don't need to talk about, stuff you should be praying about, stuff that you shouldn't even put your mouth on. So when you study to be quiet, what you're actually saying is, I'm taking charge of what comes out of my mouth. So this way, I don't have to apologize later for something that I said. If I never said nothing, there's nothing for me to apologize about.